What's up guys, J2 here, not to be confused with JZ2, that's a whole different guy. We're gonna be doing a video today that I've been asked to do a million times and we're finally gonna do it. We're gonna take an old system here that actually belongs to Coconut Monkey. You guys haven't seen him in a while. And what we're gonna do is we're going to upgrade it, not install Windows or anything. We're gonna show you the performance differences, but also what happens when you put new hardware in a system that has an existing Windows installed to show you guys how to kind of get around all that. While also bringing Nick up to the 2020s. NZXT is the simplest way to get a gaming PC without having to build it yourself. Just choose the games you want to play, set a budget, and NZXT's build configurator will take care of the rest. And right now at NZXT, they're having their Black Friday sale where you can get 10% off any order of a custom or pre-built gaming PC, including accessories like monitors, mice, and keyboards. All builds are backed by a 2-year all-in-one warranty, including parts, labor, and RAM. So get your next NZXT build and save 10% for a limited time by clicking the link in the description below.
That's not too bad.
Oh! This is the problem when you bring in someone else's computer. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna kind of give you a baseline of where we're coming from today, because this is like, there's 3 questions sort of being answered here. 1, is it worth it to upgrade to Ryzen? This is why we're such AMD fanboys. You're gonna see some amazing stuff today in terms of upgrades and performance increases, FPS increases, CPU increase. We're gonna answer what happens when you install hardware on an existing Windows OS install. We've already mentioned that in the title. We're also gonna show you numbers. So the current setup right now, 7700K, Intel 7700K, 4 cores, 8 threads, which that was like the last CPU when they're like, we can't do more than 4 cores, it's just not possible. And then Ryzen was like, oh yeah. So 16 gigabytes of G.Skill DDR4 memory, which is probably the most modern component he has in here. 980 Ti Gigabyte Extreme graphics card, which is not terrible, but it's definitely showing its age considering this particular rig for Nick. He's got 2 systems. This rig is specifically for his VR and his racing sims. The VR part is the part that concerns me about this setup because you want to maintain as close to 90 FPS or locked at 90 FPS as possible. Okay, so let's just run TimeSpy. This is out of the box numbers. I haven't overclocked it. I haven't done nothing to it. This is literally how he brought it to us. Whatever software is running is running. We're gonna optimize that as best we can. We're also gonna probably lose this custom loop. What I think is funny is I think Avast just blocked our result. Nick, I'm uninstalling it, okay? It is a vast piece of crap. People are always like, where's Nick? Where's Nick? We missed it. He's right there. Actually, you're gonna see a lot of him in December. We're gonna be doing a lot of December videos. We're gonna do the 30 days of Techmas. We're gonna try and do a daily upload for the entire month of December. So that's why Nick is back to help all that happen. But you know what didn't happen was a good score. Our combined was a 5,714. We're gonna fix this today for you, Nick. Merry Christmas early. Okay, graphics score 5836, CPU score 5110. Here's what we're gonna do then. We're just gonna shut her down and we're gonna swap out some components and I'll show you what components we're gonna use. Oh, it's so sticky. This is why vaping near their computers triggers me. It's sticky. No, Nick doesn't vape. He let a friend borrow it for a year who vapes and it's, oh, here, Nick, you, clean. So I think this is the part where I should be like, well, I don't want to get my nice new J2 pullover dirty. Speaking of J2 pullover, you can get your very own at j2sense.com. Learn the best from Linus. No, seriously, computers are nasty. I think most people will agree. Computers are just, oh, that's nasty. All right, so which RAM is this anyway?
Your bites are loose, bro.
You merely adopted the dust. There's like one piece of dust right here just floating.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Oh. So you can see the thermal paste on this was not good. Look at that, that's not a very good coverage on there. Get out. So people like to give a hard time now when people use soft tubing. And I feel like with the amount of popularity that channels like mine have created with hard tubing, anytime I use soft tubing now, people give me a hard time. You cannot do what I just did with hard tubing. I took it out in one clean, well, not clean, but complete piece. You can't do that with hard tubing, so it saves so much time. Everything I touch is sticky. I feel bad for Nick, because Nick didn't do this to his computer. He helped a friend out, and his friend did it to his computer. So if you borrow a friend's computer, don't vape near it. Peter, I have to wonder, Nick, how do you feel? And you have to speak loud, I know it's hard for you. How do you feel about going AMD on this rig?
I'm actually kind of excited because that was literally my next step for the other rig is like, am I gonna go AMD this round?
So we did the ROG Strix B550 gaming. The reason why I'm putting a B550 board in here with an older CPU is that way if he wants to jump up to a 5000 series CPU later, he can. I had considered going X470, but then he wouldn't have even had the opportunity of getting all of the B500 feature, or the 500 series feature sets. So one thing you guys know about me is I just cannot let the cables be ugly. I did a pretty good job this time. Does not want to go in there.
Oh no, it doesn't fit. Maybe you need to put a 2080 Ti in there.
All right, so here's what I did. I plugged in the internet because we do want Windows to be able to fetch any drivers it thinks it needs to get all this set up. Nick, would you do us the honors of turning on the system? And what we're gonna show you right now is what happens with Windows when you boot it up with all new platform. First thing we wanna do, turn on DOCP. So one thing we did is we went in here and enabled CSM, which is right here, CSM compatibility support. Now our boot option shows up. What we dealt with right now, and we haven't even made sure that it's booting yet, but I'm showing you the process as we came across it. The previous boot, we weren't able to see our drives because CSM compatibility mode was set to disabled. And when that's disabled, it's basically telling you the modes have to match the OS as it's installed on the drive. And if you have it disabled, this was all grayed out. You couldn't select anything, they didn't show up. You could see the drives in the drive list on the SATA page where you could see what's connected to SATA, but they weren't showing up here. So we went into compatibility support module, enabled it, and then we have right here boot device control, UEFI, and legacy OPROMs. This is basically where it can talk to the drives and be a UEFI as well. And then we have it set here to legacy only on the first boot, which should be enough to make the system boot. With that, let's see if just changing those settings now will boot us into Windows, or at least start the Windows Auto setup. So what's gonna happen now is Windows is gonna be like, hey, I don't recognize you. Show me some credentials. Now you're gonna see getting devices ready. And then we boot in, there it is. So when we boot into Windows now, it's installing the basic drivers for various things. Now, because we're coming from an Intel system to an AMD system, we're gonna wanna go and grab the B550 chipset drivers. You'd be surprised how many people don't do that. They'll take their motherboard from the manufacturer, like from Micro Center or whatever. They'll take the motherboard, put in the CPU, put in the RAM, put it in the system, boot it up, and everything works. And they're like, hey, but then they don't get a lot of the Ryzen power profile functionality and stuff that Microsoft can utilize in terms of latency when it comes to the scheduler and all that sort of stuff. And then they start to wonder why their Ryzen is getting lower scores, why it's not running right. You can hear sound clearly started working because it's reconnecting drivers. Installing just the basic chipset drivers for AMD will solve so many people's problems. But as you can see right now, we are booted into our system. You saw in real time how long it took from that first boot to being at the desktop. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and install the chipset driver, then we'll run TimeSpy again, and you'll see how much not only did CPU score come up, which will be obvious, but I bet you anything GPU score came up with it as well, hopefully, or to make me a big fat liar, because it is only a 980 Ti. So far the only thing we had to do was use his wireless antenna that he already had to go online, download the driver for the LAN drivers. So if you go to power options in your control panel, you can see we have the basic Windows one, power saver, high performance, and balanced. And what you're gonna see right now when we install all the ASUS chip driver stuff, or chipset stuff, is, I think it'll need to restart, but we'll see more power options appear here, and that's just specifically for the the Microsoft scheduler that utilizes Ryzen properly. Because the way Intel and ASUS work, or AMD work with their schedulers is very different. And this is the step a lot of people with their Ryzen systems just don't do and then don't understand why they're getting some just general weirdness with their systems. During the install, it updated without me even changing the windows. So we have AMD Ryzen high performance, AMD Ryzen balanced. So we're just gonna leave it on high performance, obviously. We've got an AIO cooler in here. All right, here we go. So all the same software is running. I didn't shut anything off because this is gonna be a really good testament to how good at multitasking this CPU is versus the 7700K. Same graphics card, same driver, nothing has been touched. We literally did nothing except install the chipset driver, let Microsoft automatically update what it needed to do to make this system work, as you can see, without changing a damn thing to our Windows 10 install. The only other tweak we had to do, as I showed you, was CSM in the BIOS. So we're gonna see right now if his 7700K and the way it was set up was holding back his 980 Ti at all. I'm not 100% convinced we're gonna necessarily see a higher GPU score. I think we might. We are absolutely gonna see a higher CPU score though. So here we go. Our old score was a 5,714. So we came up to a 6188 just by our CPU. So our graphics score before a 5,836. We actually went down, 5,797, but it's funny, it's like 50 points could be your variance from run to run. But our CPU score went from a 5,110 to a 10,018. Pretty obvious now that the weak link here is the GPU. So let's go over to the shelf and see what we can spare, because I don't have that many. I mean, I have to be mindful of the way I approach this. I think a 2080 Ti Further Win 3 should get the job done. I also think this might be one of the cards that we were playing around with overclocking last year that has like the super crazy overclocking BIOS on it. I've created a situation for Nick now, which he has to address, because this is actually his lowest spec system. He has two systems in his game room. One's a main gaming rig, and this was his simulator and VR rig. I think this is now gonna end up his main gaming rig. All right, so now that we've got the Further Win 3 2080 Ti in there, let's go ahead and just now see what the new score is again. All right, so 13,830 versus his original 5,714. GPU score went up, obviously, from a 5,836 to a 14,886. CPU score on that run was actually about 160 points lower than the last run. That's the thing, is you're gonna get fluctuation, right? As things are happening, there could be a background update happening or whatever, but the thing is now he can use this system with probably a VAST running and not notice it as much. There's no overclock applied to the graphics card yet. So that's what we're gonna do next real quick. So since he is getting one of my cards with the super secret sauce BIOS, you can see now 9% is 98 watts, so that means theoretically if we had the power, this card could pull 1,000 watts. We just have no voltage control, so it'll never get there. But yeah, let's just see what this benchmark does now. Okay, so we gained a couple hundred points. Our graphics score went to 16,033. Our CPU score dropped even farther because we do have quite literally all his background stuff running. RGB control software, Skype, PX1. So it just shows you the multi-threading performance of Ryzen. This is why everyone is so in love with Ryzen right now. And I get these messages and these emails, and people are just like, why do you fanboy over AMD so hard? It's like, because this is amazing. And this is not even 5000 series. If this were 5000 series or 5800X, it would have been even crazier. So anyway, Nick, there you go. Yeah, faster computer now. To help you turn some faster laps. I don't play anymore. I don't have time to play because I'm too busy doing this crap for my friends. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I just thought I'd take you along for the ride to show you that, look, you can update your systems, you can change platforms, you can just literally change everything and keep your Windows installs as long as you make sure you turn the right knobs on in the BIOS. We had to do the CSM mode, install the chipset drivers, and then that was it. So, thanks for watching. I hope this answered some questions while also giving me some opportunities to upgrade an old rig. One that I should have probably asked Nick a long time ago, like, what were your specs? Because we started talking about it last week, and then I was just like, wow, I am the worst friend ever.